Welcome to Touched and Empowered, a show created to empower individuals to value their lives by hosting think tank discussions that will inspire positive action. Touched and Empowered with Katie and Ace starts now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Touched and Empowered. And I'm so excited we have a guest with us, along with the amazing Katie, who I appreciate so much. Thank you for everything. Seriously, I don't know what I'd do without you. We have Michele Vilseck, a dynamic speaker, community builder, and founder of the Inspire Network. In just 90 days, Michele grew a thriving community of 300 superfans using her proven strategies for connection and engagement. Her heart-centered approach to leadership helps others build movements that not only grow their influence, but also align with their deepest values. That's wonderful. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Katie because my announcer voice tonight, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's booming. So
it's genuine. It's genuine. That's all that matters is it's genuine.
It's real.
Yeah. And we're excited to have you here, Michele. I know we know there's other stuff going in the background. It's perfectly fine. No big deal. But I did want to say that I was reading through your information, and one of the things that I found was extremely interesting was you mentioned that we all have highs and lows in our lives, and I like the idea that you mentioned that our lows are our superpowers. And I just wanted to get a little bit more information on that because I don't think people realize that our lows can become our superpowers.
I definitely did not realize that till recently because we were mentioning about kids and, stress. And I didn't realize that all growing up, I just repressed everything. And I was just, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I didn't even know I had emotions, right? And then it really came back to bite me in several different ways. But one of those was digestion, and my health just totally was crumbling by my really starting at age 16, and then definitely by my early 20s. And I think for a long time, I grew up with a dad who was just tough. He's a roofer. We would do that in the summer times. We would go roofing with him. And it was just like, you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to suck it up. You're supposed to, again, everything's fine. And, and being tough is really cool. And so, yeah, you just repress everything. And I think I never really realized how emotional of a person I am, which is probably why I had a crash so young, is just my emotional waves are up and they're down and they're up and they're down. And when they're up, they're up. And when they're down, they're down. And I think I used to just think, I need to be happy all the time. And if I'm down, then there's something wrong with me. And I'm depressed. And so I need to fix this. And it just adds a lot of pressure on top of what's already going on, your natural waves. And eventually when someone just helped me understand, you are just like, we're all emotional beings. You have emotional waves. Some people have bigger waves than others, which is okay, but it's just a wave, and you're going to come out of your wave. And there's really important things to be learned in the lows, just as much as there is in the highs. And recently, especially when I've been low, I started saying, thank you. Like, I'm just so happy that this is happening right now. And it's hard to say in the moment, to be honest, but if you can really get to that place of gratitude for it, almost immediately, I mean, for me anyway, it helps me move through it a lot quicker and easier because I see the lesson in it. And yeah, and you're not fighting against it. So, I mean, we could talk more about what the layers do, but that's in a nutshell. You can be grateful for those lows. Oh yeah, but you mentioned superpowers. Okay. So they're not just okay. Sorry, we were talking superpowers.
That's okay. No, because it all kind of like feeds into the other one. It works out great.
So not only is it okay, and then you like learn stuff from it, but the other thing is, as a speaker coach, I've really learned that the best speakers are the ones that can go to the deepest places. And many speakers are just skipping along the surface of, you know, a lot of, especially beginning speakers, they don't really want to relive those experiences. They don't want to get too vulnerable. They don't want to take you to those places that are maybe a little dark or hard. And so really, when you listen to them, though, you don't connect with those people because
Right.
they're not really telling you anything that you don't already see, right? Or that you're talking with your neighbor about all the time. Like, oh, how are you doing? Great. How are you doing? Fine. Oh, how's the weather? Awesome. How are your kids? They're great, right? It's all that surface level conversation. And whenever you've been through something and and this applies to speaking, but just in regular conversations with people too, obviously, when you've been low like that, you know what low feels like. And if you can really if you can describe it and go there with people and sit there with people in that low space, and you're comfortable enough to go back down there, then it really gives you this beautiful opportunity to connect with people, and they know that you know, and they know that you understand, and they know that you're a safe place, and they know that you can talk to them. And then you can take them back up to, in your speaking anyway, usually you take them down to like remember these terrible places, and then you take them back out to where you are now into this better place, or how you've learned these certain things from it and how you've healed and things like that. And so because you were down there and they know that you know and that you've been there, and now they see you in this better place or maybe further along on your journey, then they trust that they can get there too, and it gives them hope. So that's what I mean. That's a really long answer in terms of that's what I mean by it being your superpower, is that it
Right.
just really helps you connect with people on all levels, and it builds trust really quickly with them. And you can be, yeah, you can be their person on the journey.
And I think it's important because when we're in a low and we can resonate, and someone's talking to us and we can resonate that, oh, they've been in a low, maybe not the exact same, but at least something similar. And we can see that they pull themselves out of it. We then see the possibility that we can
Yes.
pull ourselves out of it. The best example I have is the Minute Mile. For the longest time, people said no one could run a mile in less than a minute or 4 minutes, whatever it was. And then one person did it, and all of a sudden the record keeps breaking and breaking and breaking and breaking because it's already been done. So it's like going beyond that limiting belief because we
You
have
know,
the evidence.
you know what's really cool about that analogy is, if you go a little deeper on that, the reason that they were able to break the 4 minute mile, did you know that?
I don't know the full story. I
Okay,
remember
so
hearing it a couple of times.
the whole real reason they're able to break the 4 minute mile, and they do this for marathons now too, is because they had a pace setter. So they had somebody who could run that speed, not for 4 minutes, but maybe for like a quarter of a mile. They could maintain that speed for a quarter mile. So they set people along the route who could run with you. Isn't that so beautiful?
Oh, that's
They set
wonderful.
people run along the route who could run with you and set the pace for you. And that's how they made it to the 4 minute mile, because they were able to keep pace.
And
Oh
build
my,
the endurance to do it because
Yeah.
they had someone there with them every step of the way.
Yes. Isn't that beautiful? I love that.
that's wonderful. Oh my God. That is actually really beautiful. I think it's like, it's so interesting to hear how essentially you're taking somebody's low point or your own low point and using it to encourage others, to inspire more hope, the ability to break through those limiting beliefs. It really is a superpower, because I find that not everyone has the courage to have that type of empathy, to hold space for somebody who's gone through so much and then help them see their path back out. It is actually really tough and hard. And unless you've actually had the capacity for yourself, it's hard to do it for others.
Yes. And a lot of people are scared to go there. Like I said, just like I was, like, I don't even know I have feelings, right? I don't know I have feelings. I don't know what they are. And honestly, like my gut would be ripping itself apart. And I'm like, I think I'm stressed about something right now. Like, I don't even know what this is. Right. But I think it's because, yeah, people are unaware. It scares people too, because they're like, yeah, it just makes people feel uncomfortable, and people aren't always good at feeling uncomfortable.
I
Yeah.
also think just not being understanding how to express it, because for me, growing up, we sat around the dining room table. We had dinner when we were kids with our parents. We talked about our days. When something was rotten, we kind of got to work it out a little bit.
Oh, wow.
But we're talking that was like back in the 80s and the 90s, and then technology, we had cell phones, we had social media, and we stopped having these down times where we could talk to our closest friends, family members, and be able to work through something that's bothering us. So then that way we can process it more quickly before it gets shoved down. And we try to put it away because we want to fit into that perfect mold that everything is fine.
Right. Or like for me, what I was saying about my dad is like, oh yeah, you're fine. Like be tough, tough it out. Like for me, my parents got divorced whenever I was 8 or 9 years old. And so it was like, oh, I have to be strong for everybody else. And everything else is falling around. But like I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be strong and tough. And we don't have time to cry. We don't have time to have feelings or emotions because mommy's holding it together. I got to hold it together for mom, and I've got to grow up, and I've got to take care of myself and all of that. So I think there's a lot of that goes on in our families as well too, just not understanding how important emotions are, that we express them. And so that it's like a lot of our pressure, like stop crying, stop doing this. And so there may not be a safe place, like you were saying at the dinner table. There might not be very many safe places there where you can express yourself or understand what's going on.
Yeah. And mine wasn't, my parents were divorced when I was young. So had a stepdad, really wasn't the safest place either. But I know I was able to work through some through there at the dining room table, which is why when I had my son, family dinner was so important, because I wanted to have that time with him so he could tell me what was going on. So if something bothered him, he could work through it and stuff. But at that point in time, I had already started my healing journey. So I was like, okay, I know talking about it is important, because I am the oldest of three girls. So I was the strong one for everyone else. I was the one that had the ability to help calm everyone down. So then that way we didn't bring a unwanted attention to ourselves, for lack of a better term. And so being able to share that with my son is 21 now, and he could talk to me about anything. Oh my God, he talks to me about everything. There are things I don't want to know about my son, but I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you're sharing with me. I still love you, but I don't need to hear that story again. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's lovely. I feel like it's interesting. So for me growing up, I think when it comes down to that conversation of unpacking, there were times where my mom could and times that my dad could, when they could. They were busy, they were working a lot. I always felt like I didn't want to bother them, which was really interesting. But my friends, since we were all going through the same thing, we would talk about it, especially the tough stuff, and somehow come out with a joke or laugh about it. Not a way to be, insensitive, but in a way to process and still kind of bring some uplifting light to the situation. For instance, like I remember, I'm going to do one that isn't as, I want to go deep, but I don't want to like just broadcast some weird stuff out here. But I remember this one time, I think when I was a kid, my dad just like forgot to feed me and he was really busy. He was really, really, really busy, really, really busy and stressed out. And he's immigrant generation. So he was like really stressed out as an Asian male in the United States who's, just got here. And I remember he came back, I was 4. He was like, why didn't you remind me to feed you? And I told my friends this and they all laughed with me. Because if you think about the situation, it is funny. On a compassionate lens, now he's like, every time I come home, he cooks me dinner. He gets my favorite stuff from like Costco, and I'm just like, oh, look at you. Thank you. You're making up for it. But at the time, like we could all make light of the situation. When it came to the harder stuff, we still did it too. It was very interesting.
I think finding the gratitude.
Yeah, that was a really good moment.
It's some days it's tough to get out of bed. But you know what? I'm thankful that I got out of bed today.
Yeah.
And just starting with that, it helps build for the rest of the day.
Especially in the moment that you mentioned, Michelle, not many people know to do that. Like when you're at that low point and you're like, okay, thank you for this. And that changes an entire situation at the most crucial point. If you can say thank you for what's going on, even if it doesn't seem great, there's a higher enlightened aspect to it at all times. I feel like if you're being thankful for the low moment, you're understanding that in the future, it's there to actually serve you. So if it's either to make you stronger or if it's there to help you appreciate something more in the future, you actually will gain that opportunity, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I remember hearing a coach. I was listening to a podcast several years back, and there was a coach who was talking about how she was like, yeah, our goal is really to make your highs, basically your highs not so high and your lows not so low. Our goal is to really just help you, move through things kind of in this mediocre space. I don't know. That's how I see it. I was just the way that, I understand what she was trying to say, but I think whenever I reflected on it, I was just like, no, I don't want, I like my highs to be high. Like, I like to celebrate things and get excited about stuff and just be in the energy of the moment um, and just enjoy my life. And I like the roller coaster. I like the roller coaster. Let's be honest. I like it. And if I have to have the lows because the lows have to come with the highs, then that's just part of the process and it's part of who you are. But I don't know. I just found myself rebelling against that idea. Like, I don't want you to flatten my life out. Like, I kind of like how I get excited and then and I think a lot of people though online, they see people will say this to me too, like, oh wow, you're just so happy all the time, you're so energetic all the time. And I'm just like, no, I just show up when I am, not to be like pretend like I'm something I'm not, but I just pick the moments that I feel good to create content. And then I schedule that out. And sometimes I show up whenever I'm feeling low to share some of that and the wisdom that I got out of that, which is a different kind of energy. But if I don't feel like getting online and showing up to tell you something, then I'm not going to. And that's just the place that I'm at. And I give myself space for that. But anyways, that's probably another conversation. But I just really realized when you're in the low, it's hard to appreciate it. But kind of looking back, if someone said, oh, I'll take your lows away, but I have to take your highs away, then I'm like, no, I think I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, wow.
I agree with that because you need the contrast. How do you know if you're having a high if you don't have the low to compare it to?
Exactly. Yes. And how much, I just went through 2 really low years. I call myself high functioning depression because I can still do stuff. I can still show up. I can still make myself go to work. I can still get stuff done. But, I can tell things are falling apart and I'm not getting out of bed in the morning until this time when normally I get up at this time. And I used to work out all the time and I can't, there's a lot of things that were just kind of crumbling. But now that I'm out of that really low period, I was just like, every day I'm so grateful that, that I can feel happy again and that I can wow, I feel joyful or wow, it's just the little things. I can walk around and I feel better. And I just am grateful for every single day because I was like, wow, that was awful, wasn't it? And now I feel so much better. But again, going back to your superpower, whenever anyone says anything about anxiety or depression or anything, I'm like, I am with you. Like, I get it. I get it. And it's not fun. And I understand. And I can sit there with it and listen to what's happening. And I can give you a hug for no reason. And I can let you know that, hey, it's going to be okay. And the lows come back up again. And sometimes it takes longer than you want it to, but
It's a good reminder, because when we're in our lows, we don't see. We can only focus on that moment. It's hard to have the creativity and the imagination as to what's still possible when we're in our lows.
Yeah, and that shows to the extent of how much you've healed, Michele. I'm sorry I cut you off, Katie.
That's fine.
I just want to like kind of bode that in there because it's really important. The fact that you're able to sit with somebody and say, it's going to be okay, we're going to get through this, shows that you've done that for yourself, and now you can extend that to others. And that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think a lot of us were actually going through high functioning depression the last 2 years. There's been a lot going on, folks. I don't know about you. I know a good portion of my network has been going through something very similar, where it's like you have a big mission, you have something that you want to provide to the world, and I don't know what it was, but the last 2 years I feel like it's been a lot of expiating that energy of the sadness, the heaviness, so that we can actually move towards those goals. I think it's because I repressed all of the sadness for a good portion of my life as well, and then that was the time that I could actually just drain it out of me. But the only way to do that is to actually sit through it and not ignore it anymore.
Yes. Well, and I love you talking about cycles too, of there's these worldly cycles that are going on. And I had a friend too that she comes out of what she called her hangover, her life hangover. she's come out of her life hangover, and she even came up with a program. One of her offers, she's calling it the remedy, because she's like, on this upside. But I think one of the other things to understand too, again, there's the waves, there's the cycles. I think one of the things that we don't always talk about too, as being a female, is the monthly cycles. And I think, especially when you're depressed and you're not eating right, and or you just have hormonal imbalances in general, then those monthly lows are very low. And my husband used to tease me about, actually, I started taking a B vitamin. This is not medical advice, but I started taking this B complex, and it has gotten so much better. I didn't realize I was deficient in B7 specifically. So anyways, random side note, but my husband was calling it the world is ending day, because a couple of days before my period started, I would be just like, oh, my business isn't working. I'm a terrible mom. Nothing's working. I need to just like everything. I should probably just shut my business down, like all the things. And he's like, you'll feel better in a couple of days, sweetie. He's like every time I'm like, what's happening? And I just think too, we should be compassionate and understand ourselves and our different situations, because we're all different. And then especially as females, we have real cycles that go on. There's real fluctuations in our moods and our energy levels and our hormones. And I worked with a health coach. I was helping her with her speaking, but she helped women. Oh, she had a nutritional program that was cycle syncing, and you ate with your cycle. And it was really fascinating, because I learned from her that it's actually like, it has 4 seasons. Your cycle actually has 4 seasons. And there's like a spring where you have after your period, where your energy's coming back up. You don't feel like eating as much. And then there's like a summer where you're in your prime. You got a lot of energy for many different things in many different ways, right? But you're on top of it and you're in your power. And then the fall is kind of like you're slowing down. And then the winter, you're really meant to rest during your bleed, and you're, your hormones drop, you're really meant to rest, you really want to eat a lot more naturally. And I think just understanding this cycle and other cycles in life, it just gives you compassion for yourself of like, oh, okay, it's just that time of the month and I should be resting and my body wants to rest right now. Or my body wants to go out. Like, that's why I feel like $1 million today, And so.
Oh, I love
And-
it. That's real.
And it's easy to figure, even somebody who doesn't have a cycle, whether it be because of gender or medical reasons or whatever, just journaling
Yes.
will help you see the frequency as to, okay, I have 4 good weeks and then I have 1 week that's off. And then I have 4 good weeks and then I have 1 week that's off. So I know that on that 1 week that's off, don't schedule any major projects that are due.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Understanding that rhythm of your life is so imperative because I feel like we're not like kind of like you were mentioning, Michelle. It's okay that we feel this way. It really is. We're not machines as much.
No.
Yeah, as much as we want to be. But we can program our AI to be funny and let that be there.
Right? I keep going back to like 50 years ago or 80 years ago. Whenever I don't want to answer my phone, this is what I think. I'm like, they didn't even have phones, right? You had to walk over and see your neighbor, right? Like
Yep.
it wasn't, nobody was bombarding you all the time. You didn't have to be happy all the time. You were out plowing your field or you're planting your garden. You could sulk for a while and you weren't gonna, you could be in your emotions and reflect and connect with nature. And maybe that's like 200 years ago that I'm thinking of, like the 1800s. As like the expectations are different and really we don't have as much space in our current world. It's hard. We don't have as much space as we used to have to process things. And we're kind of expected to be on all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stimulation in the
lots.
world right now.
Oh my, I remember, but I like resonate with that so much just because I remember one time my Instagram, like I wasn't posting on Instagram for I think like a month or something. And I was really I just didn't have anything to post. But people were messaging me like, are you okay? Is everything all right? I don't see anything. You're posting things that aren't normally what you post. And I'm sitting there like, I'm not sad. Wow, I didn't have the space to just be. Y'all needed to. And it's interesting because it is kind of that that interim of when is it okay to give people their space? When is it all right to check on them? Is it okay that they're going through their low? And it is. It's just, allowing them to have that because if not, they're going to stay there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how nice of them to check on you though, too. They're like, oh, something's different. What's going on with Ace right now, right?
It was nice, but I also wanted to be alone. I was like,
Yeah.
But it was nice. It was nice. If you think about it that way, out of a lens of gratitude, yeah, I have people.
I get it though. I mean, I have like this big hermit side. I love being out on center stage and networking and connecting with people, but I have so much. Like, I just love to be alone and I love to you not bother me. And one of my coaching programs, I'm like, I never promise I'm going to be the one that's getting right back to you because I'm not. I'm going to get back to you when I get back to you, when I feel like it. And I'm going to respect you the same way. I really am. But
it's reciprocal.
It is. But it's the clear communication that's the most important part of it. Because I have clients that I am quote unquote on call for because I do tech support stuff still. But everyone knows, because I make it very clear, Sunday is my day that I don't turn on my computer unless like the world is coming to an end, because I need my day of no technology. And all of my clients, well, I can't say all, everyone except for my mom respects that role. My mom counts on me for tech support and she still messages me on Sundays because she needs help with stuff. And I'm like, I'll get back to you on Monday. And that's the only message she gets from me. But she understands, oh yeah, I forgot what day of the week it was.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's nice. Monday is my day.
Yeah.
Whenever.
I mean, we all have our certain days or certain windows of time.
Yeah.
One of my friends actually blocks off like 4 hours in the middle of their day. They work for 4 hours, they take 4 hours off, and then they work for 4 hours. and it works for them. They like to
Yeah.
have that middle of the day off to go do errands or whatever they want to do. I think actually they nap.
That's called
But
siesta. That's real in Spain.
it sounds really good. There are some days it's like, oh, I want today to be a nap day. Let me just block off this window because
Mhm.
we need to take that time for ourselves sometimes.
Yes, I'm the best mom when I'm like, don't talk to me till 11. Not in a mean way, but then I just feel so renewed. Then I'm happy to hug you and talk to you and listen.
Right.
That's all right. So funny enough, just fun fact. I remember I had a 10 a.m. like interview scheduled with Michelle, and I was like, I don't normally do this. What? I'm so sorry. I'm here. Oh my gosh, because I'm like I do the same thing. It's normally till 11 o'clock is like my recovery, set intention. Um, feel like a great person before I talk to you at 11:30 type of person. Um, very similarly, it comes down to the cycle of just, having that personal space for yourself. And then you can go out and go be awesome. I think those areas of life is where you can decompress, have that space to process, and hopefully figure out how to be a superhuman by then, depending on the day.
Yeah. But I think the whole conversation is around understanding who you are, respecting who you are. I really think one of the reasons we do get depressed and burnt out and overwhelmed is because you're just not respecting who you are and what you actually need, because we hear what we should be doing, and we're supposed to be happy all the time, and we should be getting up early, and we should be, doing answering our phone every second when someone has something that they need us for, and we should like all these things. When the reality is, no, you are your own person. We all have different needs. She needs a siesta during the day, right? Or he, and I, when I am not depressed and feeling good, like my body loves to wake up at 4 a.m. and have like a lot of time in the morning. And then I'm done by 8. But my husband is like in bed by midnight and up at 8. This is a totally different schedule. But, we're happiest if we're on our own schedule and not trying to be on each other's schedule, and I think that's true for life. And it's really about saying, because ultimately it feels maybe like, oh, I'm like what you were saying, oh, I'm bothering them, or oh, I'm a burden, or oh, I really need to answer that phone call for my client right now, or my friend, or whatever. Um, when the reality is, I'm a better person if I do this thing for myself, if I stay on my cycle, if I keep my boundaries, if I tell them, hey, I'm gonna get to that Monday.
Yeah, I feel like so I'm in this interesting stage of my life where most of my friends, they're rediscovering those needs and boundaries because for so long they were kind of going through I'm going to call it the training wheels of society. These are your needs, right?
Mhm.
Like this is what you believe, what society air quotes says that you need. But then once people are like, gotten to a point in their life where they have the freedom and the space to rediscover what those needs truly are, it's kind of mind bending. So I would love to hear your take on what's a good tip for people to rediscover what those needs are and how to set proper boundaries to make sure that you are your optimal self.
We talked about this before, but there's lots of healing modalities and things. For me, what I think, honestly, you know what you need, but you just haven't been listening to yourself for so long that we don't give ourselves permission for it. So one of the things that really helped me is discovering my human design and really looking into that. If you're not familiar with it, it's like, I call it astrology on steroids. It's just
It's
like,
so much more than astrology. It truly is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was so detailed and so spot on for me. And it just gave me permission to say, okay, no, that's okay. That's who I am. Oh no, that's okay. That's who I am. No, that's okay. So like with mine, yeah, it's like 4 or 5 different spots. It's like, you need space. You need so much space and time for yourself. And I never gave myself that space. And whenever I look back at my high school, whenever I got my, like, when my health really started crashing, I was getting up at 5 a.m. I was going to seminary, a church thing before school. I had 8 extra, like I had an extra period for math. We had like a math, I was on math team and that was the last one, but then we had to take the 0 period class. And then I was doing soccer and I was in all the high ability, like these high ability classes. And then, then they gave us like 3 hours of homework every day. And then like I had 0 time for myself. And I'm like, no wonder I felt like my body was literally falling apart because I had 0 time for myself. And this is a crazy schedule that's happening for a lot of people. So that's just my example. But there was just a lot of other things that's like, oh, this is how you communicate, and this is who you are, and lean into that. And I just felt like it was just, for me, it was like, yes, it's just giving me permission to be me. And I can point to that and be like, see, my human, that's just who I am. Okay. Like,
It is. And it makes it easier to communicate with people if you're aware of what your own human design is, but
Hey, what
also
are
the
you?
people that you work. I'm just a pure generator.
Ooh.
My mom is a pure manifester. So she's the bullet train, and I just like to sit back and take things slow. And realizing that made it so much easier in communication when it came to trying to get projects done, or even just trying to have a mom and daughter relationship. Because one of the things I learned with my human design is I'm emotional authority. So I have to go that whole range of emotions when I'm making a decision. So for my mom, she's like, snap, ready to go, ready, aim, fire, let's go. Or ready, fire, then aim most of the time. But for me, if there's a decision coming, I have to sit there and be like, okay, I have to go through all of these emotions. Now, how do I feel about the decision? Okay, yes, this is the right decision. And my son is a reflector. So it takes him 30 days to go through that process to make a decision. And I couldn't understand why it took so long for him to figure out that what he needed to do to get like grants and stuff to go to college until I did his human design. I'm like, oh, no wonder. He needs 30 days of research before he comes to a decision. Not a problem. Go do your research. I'll brainstorm with you when you're done, and then we'll go from there.
You just gave me so much insight because I dated a reflector and a generator.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in it. Katie and I have known this. I'm working on patience. Being a manifesting generator, you don't need patience isn't conditioned. So actually working with Katie has helped a lot in the sense of like helping me understand patience more, sit on decisions before manifesting actions and resources to keep moving. But yeah, I'm saying that in a nice way. Because honestly, if we are doing the train wreck version of life, that can get really smoldering. It's really good to have those checks and balances with the different types of human designs out there. That's why we work so well together.
Yeah, and I loved to your point, just like learning about it as well, because it just opened my eyes to how if we are all working in, if we are all authentically ourselves and respecting each other's authentic self, then it really was designed to fit together so perfectly like a little puzzle.
Mm.
Excuse me. And so like in human design, there's these 4 main what are they? Personality types. The reflector, I've actually never met a reflector, so that's really interesting.
They're like one of the smaller groups.
They're like so
Yeah, it's a lower
small.
percentage. Yeah.
So that one's really hard. But like my son's a projector, right? Yeah. So the generator types, they're made to get stuff done, and the manifestor types are made to like know exactly what they want to have done and then attract these generators to them. So, but if they're really in agency, in respecting other people's agency, and if you're really if you understand yourself and you understand others and you give them space for what they're doing, right, then it just all works together perfectly if you see how they all come together. Because in the manifestors, they have like these ideas, and then the generators who are happy to work for them, who are excited about the things they're excited about, they're they're happy and they're going and they're fulfilled and they're doing their thing, right? And then the projectors come and then they help us, do this all more efficiently and better. And it's like, oh, and that's just a generalized picture, but like we all just have this beautiful space in the world. And if we all just respect and trust that we know our place and respect, hey, it's going to take you longer, or hey, you're ready to go faster, or all of that, then it really does work together really great. So I don't know what I'm a manifesting generator, but I'm an emotional. So I don't know if you're an emotional too, but it's like having to wait.
For the emotional wave.
Oh my gosh. All right. So thank you. I identify. So I'm a manifesting generator as well. So it does, I actually need a lot of space. I need a lot of alone time. And I didn't know that until like maybe 6 years ago. And when I was just always around people. And then the moment I had time to myself a lot, I was like, this is wonderful. Why do I feel energized? What? And it was interesting because I can come up with an idea, sit on it, and I'll sit on it for 3 months or so. And then all of a sudden, everything is starting to move at like lightning speed, because everything, all the puzzle pieces are in place. And now all I have to do is walk through. But the patience to that point is like, why isn't it happening now? Like,
yeah, when you try to force it, it doesn't work. And yeah, anyways, all of it, like, yeah, being in alignment when you're in flow and when you can understand other people being in flow, it works so much better. Yes.
And as much as I would love to continue this conversation, we are coming up on time. And so to be respectful of that, we just want to say thank you for everyone for hanging out with us for another week. We appreciate our audience. Michele, thank you so much for the insight on highs and lows and human design and everything in between, because it helps remind us that we could just take our time. We don't always have to go at bullet speed. So on that note, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that the discussion today will inspire you to take positive action in your life. Until next week, be empowered.